Before I start this video, I just want to say that a lot of hard work and dedication over 25 years has come into the knowledge that I have managed to acquire and learn. And that is a lot of hard work and a lot of my time, and that is valuable, just like your time is valuable. When you go to work, you do not expect to go to work for free. So please take this into account with the information given here in this video, that I am giving you stuff that you generally would not get for free. You would pay an arm and a leg for. So please at least like, share, subscribe. Keep that in your mind. You know, when you guys come at me and you get mad at me when I don't diagnose your problem for free, you don't go to work for free either. So please just understand that. So thank you and enjoy the video. Before I get into this, I want to explain this ended up being a no start after doing a clutch, but you're not going to believe what the heck caused the problem. And I can assure you, no one's going to get this right until they realize it from the end of the video. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I put a clutch in this car, right? And I put injectors and injectors at the same time, and fuel assembly in the back, all in one shot. I go to start the car, and it has a very short crank, and then just stops. Well, it's not a dead battery, because obviously the first thing you check, see, is the lights are dimming, anything like that. Nope, not the problem, right? Check my battery terminals, dead tight, can't move them, nothing on there, good and solid. Still, same problem persists, where it does a very short crank and then just stops. We're not talking about like slow, it just stops. It doesn't go, it wasn't like that. It cranked completely normal. Then, turn around, I'm like, man, I'm going over every connector I touched. Now, I take notes. I take my nuts and bolts, I put them in bins and label them, organize everything you can think of, everything that gets disconnected, I write it down. It's just a habit of mine to make sure that I don't have problems like this. I went over, I tried locking and unlocking the door, thinking it's a security problem. I scan it for codes, there's nothing there. The crazy thing is, my Snap-on scanner, for some reason, seemed to think this was an L15 engine. So for those of you who don't know, the SI engine, this is a Type R, it is not that. So I'm going through my brain sitting there, well, the injectors aren't brand new, maybe try unplugging them, maybe some sort of short, and them is drawing down the system. Nope. Tried the same thing with the new ignition coils that were put in. Nope, not the problem there. So I'm unplugging all the connectors that I did, which was all in the trans, the ECD2, AC compressor, and the reason I did the AC compressor is I pull the whole engine assembly out so that I don't have to get the car aligned afterwards. That offset in time is actually pretty good for me because I don't have an alignment rack here. That, and since I don't have a full height lift, that makes my life actually somewhat easier. Now, continuing on through the diagnostic process, obviously I hooked up a charger. Nothing there either. I'm going through the grounds that are on here. There are aftermarket grounds in here. I'm calling the customer, did you have a problem at some point? No. The fuel rail pressure sensor plug, somebody had broken the locking retaining clip in there, and for some reason they had been in there with electrical tape and didn't look like anything had been really played with. So I don't know if they were probing it or what. Maybe they had a no start issue in the past, which sometimes the rail pressure sensor will do that. That red, if you've got no crank sensor signal, it will do a very short crank. I checked my Snap-on scanner, I can see the RPM, therefore I have crank sensor signal. I had, during even that short crank, it showed cam crank sync, which even then still made no sense, no codes. I'm sitting there chasing my butt. I tried getting out the car, doing the manual key in the door. That again, to no avail. Same thing, and it's really weird because it would crank for like a second, maybe a second and a half, maybe two full seconds, but it would never finalize the crank and start. The ECU was literally just shutting down the car, and I didn't know why. Again, check the battery terminals, check the charge, nothing wrong with the charge. I got just over 12 volts in the battery. The voltage sag on cranking was not bad at all. So again, I'm sitting there for hours going back, like, what the hell? I went over, like, so basically, again, AC compressor plug, checked, you know. I did disconnect the fans because I took the rad support out to get the turbo out easier. It's just faster for me that way. Every single connection was in there. I even took a sensor out of the trans that I know if it fails, it can do a similar thing, and swapped it out. That wasn't it. There's a particular one of the shaft sensors can do that. If it fries or shorts, it will do the same thing. But that's usually, but it didn't make any sense because that connector was an area that couldn't get whacked when taking the transmission out. Couldn't get touched. The whole thing came out. It was one unit, and it got put as on one of my basically roller jack stands. I don't forget what the hell. It's basically, it's a tray that you can jack up. I bought it from Harbor Freight. Nothing was dented, no pins, no pulled, no wire harness problems. Everything looked great. I went there for like 2.5 hours chasing my tail. I'm like, what on earth? I said, you know what? I got my stock ECU. I said, let me go throw my ECU in. It cranks normal. I'm like, what on earth happened here? And I'm like, there's no way. I was like, please tell me somehow this ECU did not fry itself during, and again, the ECU was plugged in when the power wasn't connected on the car, and no terminals were put backwards because, well, you'd have to be a dummy to really do that here. It's like impossible, almost impossible to do so. Anyway, yeah, because you'd have to unclip this and then bring it all the way around to the negative terminal. And that would be the only way. Even if you try to put the battery in backwards, it won't connect. It just doesn't make sense. I plug his computer back in. Oh, and I want to say one other thing. I did try reflashing the ECU too. No avail. So when I had plugged my computer in, I got the red security light on the dash actually came up. And I'm like, okay, the security light's there. All right. I don't know if they'll run like that. I never tried doing that. But I'll tell you this much. I plug his ECU back in and the car starts right up. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just spent hours doing all this diagnostic work over an ECU that decided to have its own conniption. So, for those of you, I don't know what to tell you on that one. That's really strange. Again, at that point, all I had done was take my stock ECU, put it in the car, crank it. It cranked normal. I put his back in, sitting there waiting for this thing to do a partial crank, going, somehow the ECU just decided to crap the bed. And no, it didn't. So I can't tell you what happened, but somehow, somewhere, just like when you have a computer like a laptop or something like that, computers do go on the fritz. It's just the computer. If you run into this problem, it very well could be that. So signs of a partial crank on these cars would be like no cam crank sync, no crank sensor signal. That'll do it. And if you have on the transmission, I think it's the third gear shaft speed sensor that picks up the shaft speed of the input shaft. If that goes bad, it can cause a short crank. But all of those are usually a symptom of the exact amount of time it will crank. It will never kind of crank a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. And unless the sensor's kind of on the fritz, I have seen that. So for those of you who don't know, that's a good tip. And then the battery terminals, that will do the same thing. But again, I checked it 3 times. And at that time, when I put my ECU in, I had not touched it. I had already tried it on his, put mine in, worked fine, then put his back on, and now the car's fine. So I hope this helps. That's a really screwy start-stop situation. And please, if you like these tips in this video, please like, share, subscribe.